Good afternoon, Minugashep. My name is Germaine Trudeau Elliott. My Indigenous name is Sacagawea Penesiqua, and I'm from the Serpent River First Nation. I currently hold the position as Executive Director for Mamaway Wiidokdaadwin, which is an Indigenous primary care team working in Simcoe and Muskoka. Chimiigwech.
Thanks, Germaine, and hello, everyone. My name is Carol Lambie, and I'm currently the President and CEO of Waypoint Center for Mental Health Care, one of the inaugural Structured Psychotherapy Network lead organizations.
Thanks so much, Carol and Germaine, for joining us today. And we're going to be talking about relationship building today. So I want you to think back to, I think it's been 7 years that your organizations have been partnered together, and to think back to the beginning and what were some of the ways that the two partner organizations got to know each other and some of your shared goals. And we'll start with Germaine.
Thank you, Phoebe Ann. Well, first of all, one of the other responsibilities that I have here in this region is I chair the Indigenous Health Circle. And the Indigenous Health Circle is a collection of, it's a collaborative of service providers, community members who want to advance and improve Indigenous health. So around that table, there might be, we have representatives from, for example, the health directors from First Nations, leadership from friendship centers, Métis groups, and so on. Because we are an inclusive group, we also have non-Indigenous service providers such as the Simcoe Muskoka District Health Unit, the Regional Cancer Care Program, and so on. I think it was in that capacity as chair of the Indigenous Health Circle that I first met Carol. And she was invited, I guess the meeting was arranged by one of your board members, Dr. Ed Connors.
Mm.
And we met at the Roundhouse at Anata Healing Lodge.
Yeah, that's right, Germaine. That takes me back a bit. So I feel like from the time I've been in this role, Germaine has been there. But I think, Germaine, you actually came a little bit later. I started at Waypoint in 2008, and Germaine's right. Dr. Ed Connors, a member of the Indigenous community, was one of our first board members when what was Mental Health Center Penetanguishene was divested. And so, yeah, I'd almost forgotten that, Germaine, that Ed made the introduction. And also, I think our working together and our relationship, built on that through the North Simcoe Muskoka LHIN, as they existed then. And there were a number of tables for mental health and addictions. Waypoint was the lead for mental health and addictions as an initiative, and Germaine and I sat at those tables together, and also sat at the leadership table of the LHIN together. So we continued to work together, and had been doing so for quite some time before structured psychotherapy initiative came along. And I think, from my perspective anyway, certainly it was that long working together around other things that helped make OSP a successful partnership.
Great. Thanks so much for sharing that. It sounds like you had a lot of different opportunities to connect as individuals and also as organizations over the years. Can you share what has been the most challenging about the partnership and what's been the most rewarding between your two organizations? And maybe we'll start this time with Carol.
Well, I guess maybe what was challenging, I said it was very helpful that we had this history and relationship and working together. I suppose what was challenging about it was of the original 4 structured psychotherapy NLOs, we didn't all have the same model. And the model that Waypoint used and uses is a partnership model and a decentralized model. So the provision of structured psychotherapy through the program is actually, for the most part, through our community partners. And I guess probably what was most challenging about it is that we were charting a new path. It hadn't been done before. Germaine, you can, talk to probably the challenges around here's this structured program, and it didn't quite fit, with the way the Indigenous community would have wanted to provide it in a culturally safe and sensitive way. So I guess those were probably the 2 things from my perspective, Germaine.
Mhm. Well, I would agree that that was the most challenging, and uh, and that the program uh, wasn't like we didn't immediately see how it would be able to impact our community the way that it was structured, right? But I think because we had this history of working together, both at the tables that Carol had mentioned, but also I think through that work and through I want to say put in a plug for leadership, right? Since this is being shared with other NLOs, that it's really, I think, important that the leadership of any NLO understands and values a relationship with Indigenous communities. And if that relationship is valued and understood, then it opens up the possibilities for uh, creating and being creative, right, in terms of adapting uh, processes and approaches. And I want to talk about the importance of listening, right? And Carol is an excellent listener. And so listening without judgment or without any preconceived notion or any intent, to make us, and I mean us as an Indigenous community or an Indigenous provider, listening in a way that, without the intent of making us conform. Like, I think that was so key to it, right? And understanding that uh, and valuing uh, the thoughts and opinions that were coming forward, uh, both at the OSP table, but also in other areas as well, right? So mental health and addictions is a huge area, and the needs are many everywhere, right? But most of all, ensuring that Indigenous voice was heard.
Yeah, thank you, Jermaine. Very kind. And I would just say how much I learned because, we all do this. We go into meetings and you kind of think, okay, well, everyone's thinking the same way. I mean, we do that in our lives, let alone in our professional lives. And I have learned so much. Jermaine, I can remember you and Brenda Jackson and I meeting and talking about, submitting proposals and, a standard approach wasn't going to work. But you really taught me a lot, and also were so successful in the evolution of that. So it really is a journey, and it's built on relationship. Yeah.
And often we would talk about meeting in the middle of the road, right? That, some of our teachings talk about, being parallel, like each in our canoe.
Mhm.
But sometimes that there is a lot of value and benefit in um, in giving a little, right? And so even when we were coming to the table and realizing that the OSP program uh, wasn't immediately meeting our needs, we also accepted that there were some things that we would have to adopt as well as adapt in order to make it successful in our communities. And I think we came with a willingness to explore that as well. Um,
Mhm.
and, you know, and I think that was true for the Indigenous community as a service delivery site. Um, and we continued that relationship. And for me, like the best part of it was the day that we gathered to sign
Yeah.
the letter of relationship. And we had a beautiful ceremony again at the roundhouse. And the Indigenous community had prepared a wampum belt to symbolize that relationship and our commitment to each other. And through ceremony, we presented this wampum belt to Waypoint, in which Waypoint currently holds that wampum belt, uh, to remind us all about this commitment to the relationship. And I think it extends beyond OSP. So there have been many instances where Waypoint has been able to support the development of other services, Indigenous-led services in our region. And I just think it's pretty unique. That's pretty wonderful.
Yeah, I absolutely, Germaine was going to speak to the ceremony as the most, I don't know, sort of the culmination, I guess, and the recognition, doing that in ceremony and being out at Anautic. And we had a number of our folks there. So this isn't, just Germaine and I having this relationship. We've got board members. Germaine talked about Dr. Ed Connors at the beginning. A previous board member was there. One of our current board members and past chair, John McCullough, um, Glenn Robitaille, our director of spiritual care and ethics. Long relationships. Those relationships predated me and probably predated you, some of them, Germaine. So it's just been building on that. But that was a wonderful ceremony. And, we cherish the gift of the wampum belt, which our Indigenous healer at Waypoint holds for us. So, yeah.
Thanks so much. I think you both shared a lot of wisdom there about building relationships, the importance of strong leadership, of sort of listening with an open mind and an open heart, of collaborating together to find ways to sort of innovate and make things work together in ways that work for the communities you serve. But I'm just wondering if you have any last words of advice to share for NLOs and SDSs about building new relationships.
Do you want to start, Germaine?
Oh, you can go.
I mean, I guess I would just reiterate what we've talked about. First of all, it doesn't happen overnight. We've been talking about our history over years, and it builds on the work that you do together. Um, I think, yeah, you have to have mutual respect, listen, um, and learn from each other, and just keep building on it as you go. There sometimes, not just with Germaine or Mamaway, but I would talk about in our region about it's sort of like potluck dinner. Everybody brings a little bit of something, and you end up with much more than you would have individually, and we're richer for it. So, and I guess I would also add, probably as one of the highlights, because of this partnership, we've been able to serve clients, members of the community that perhaps wouldn't have, been able to receive this care. So that in and of itself is what we're all working towards, right? So anyways, it's been terrific.
Thank you for that, Carol. I guess my advice would be don't be afraid to bend and uh, and also to say yes, right? To think about what is possible, not so much about, well, it's not in the rules or we can't do that. And if we honor and respect each other's knowledge and honor and respect each other's ways of doing and being, I think that a good and kind relationship will ensue, and it will be the foundation of all the work moving forward.
Thanks so much, Germaine. That's really important to think of the spirit that we enter into relationships in. I just want to say a big thank you and miigwech to both of you for sharing your experience and your wisdom that you've gained in working together. I think that all of the NLOs and SDSs who get to view this are going to find it valuable. So thanks so much for taking the time today.
Thanks, Phoebe Ann, and thanks, Germaine. Good to do it together.
Thank you, Phoebe Ann, and always nice to see you, Carol. And
Yep. We'll
miigwech.
see you again. Bye-bye.
Okay, bye-bye.